Welcome to the Daily Thunder Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Rabar, beat writer for DailyThunder.com. Every week, we will have guests ranging from national sports writers and local reporters to OKC celebrities and Thunder staff and players. Our guest this week is an NBA insider from 107.7 The Franchise, Mr. Jon Hamm. He's also the host of the far superior Thunder podcast, OKC Dream Team, Thunder After Dark. He's the NBA salary cap guru, so we're going to drill him with all the questions we've all been wondering about OKC's salary cap and luxury tax situation. We had Twitter questions for Jon, and we're going to finish the show with the Lightning Bolts trivia contest between Jon and myself. Joining us now on the Daily Thunder podcast, good friend of the show and of mine personally, Jon Hamm. Jon, how you doing, man?
Oh crap, we're friends?
Well, it's just for show, man. Just for the people listening.
It's gonna say breaking news as far as I'm concerned. I didn't get a notification on my phone from Woj about that.
Yeah, Woj mom, we're friends. Then you look in the comments, like people are like, fake news. No,
yeah.
Not true.
Not buying it.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a minute since we talked, like literally a minute. Because you have been a reliable source of information for Thunder After Dark for us this season. It's my turn to show appreciation to you for taking some time and helping us out on those post-game podcasts from time to time. And, we really appreciate your insight. And by the way, subscribe to the OKC Dream Team and get that in Thunder After Dark.
Yeah, seriously, I appreciate you having me on your podcast. Everybody really does need to listen. If you want to listen to a really good podcast, you should probably just turn this one off right now and then go listen to the backlog of the Dream Team and the Thunder After Dark. I'm just saying. So Jon does those podcasts. He's on the Franchise Radio. He is an NBA salary cap guru. And every time I get to talk to you, I always have questions for you about the salary cap and about Thunder moves. And I think probably everywhere you go, I know I see it on Twitter everywhere, but I feel like everywhere you go, you're probably at Homeland just trying to get some groceries for you and your kids. You probably stop by people like, hey, so if they waive Andre Robertson, you're like, dude, I'm trying to get some eggs and milk, bro.
That's not far from the truth. And sometimes I feel bad because like Stephen Dolan, for example, was really curious about some stuff. And it's like, at that moment, I couldn't stop and explain everything. I'm like, it's complicated. And I feel bad giving that answer, but there are some things that's kind of like, well, if, and then 9 paragraphs later, but then 14 more paragraphs, else 19 more paragraphs. And it's like, sometimes it's just easier for me to talk it out than like hammer it out 240 characters at a time.
Well, and this is perfect timing then, because we'll get to Steven's question. And I feel like after the trade deadline now, things are kind of set for the rest of this season. Of course, the summer will be here before you know it. People are wondering about, ramifications of salary cap and buyouts and all that stuff. So we'll cover all that this episode. Anything you ever wanted to know from Jon Hamm, whether it be on Twitter or at Crest, we're going to find out tonight. So first thing I do want to ask you, trade deadlines passed and the Thunder didn't make any moves. What's your thoughts on that? Just obviously this has nothing to do with the salary cap or anything, but what do you think about the Thunder not making moves? Good, bad, somewhere in the middle?
Well, Isaiah Roby would like a word, sir.
Oh, my, that's right. That's right. You're right.
Justin Patton's life got uprooted because of that. No, I'll be honest. Like when the word started to come out, I think you and I did Thunder After Dark.
We did.
The night before, and it's like, well, Gallinari's gone.
Yep.
And
yep,
like,
that's right.
It's some of these things like where there's so much smoke, you just assume there's a raging fire, and you'd be, kind of ignorant to ignore that. And so I was convinced that at a minimum that was going to happen. And then it didn't. And I sort of understand the reasons why. And largely it's because Gallinari probably looked at Miami's contract offers and said, I can do better. So, that didn't come through. Trade offers for Dennis Schroeder were a little complicated because, so as it turns out, Minnesota was looking at D'Angelo Russell, not Dennis Schroeder.
Right.
Los Angeles, the Lakers probably would really like to have had Dennis Schroeder, but didn't really have anything that made sense for OKC, or they would have had to take, whatever players they were offering and try to reroute them somewhere else. And, all told, I'm kind of glad in a sense that they just decided, you know what? This is not the Grundy County auction. We don't have to sell to the highest bidder here. We can wait this out. And in the meantime, we got 30 some odd games left of this team, and let's see what they can do.
Right, exactly. And I think a big segment of Thunder fans are excited because that means that this fun, overachieving team isn't going to be broken up. And they can see, I've seen it everywhere. People just kind of want to see this team ride it out and just see what they can do in the playoffs. I don't think anybody's necessarily expecting a first round upset or anything like that, but maybe. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
And I think that, this team has been so much fun. We just want to see what happens. Now, speaking of that overachieving team not making any moves, the trade deadline happened and just kind of simultaneously lined up with the Thunder kind of hitting a bad stretch here for maybe the first time since the first, 10 games. The Thunder now lost 2 in a row, but maybe even more concerning than that, the couple of games that they won before that were against lesser teams, and they struggled to beat those teams. What's your thoughts over the recent slide?
Well, Brandon, if you ever want to make a hot take on Twitter, go and point out that they haven't looked really impressive against Cleveland and the remnants of the Detroit Pistons. Because when I did that, and I was pointing out, really, and the game before that was at Phoenix, which, was not an impressive win there either. I was just pointing out, this may be nothing, but this is a little concerning. I mean, it's at least something to pay attention to. I'm calling it a slump, even though they lost against obviously an excellent Celtics team, an average Spurs team at home. They defeated the other lesser teams, but some of it could just be they played so many games in January, so many games. And maybe that's catching up to them. Maybe they had 4 days off at the end of the month, but maybe they just need the All-Star break like a lot of teams in the league. So I'm going to lean that direction while also pointing out that, last year when they laid an egg right before the All-Star break, I said probably not a big deal unless it lingers, and it lingered. So, right. You have to make note of it, but also I think this team has the capability to, kind of snap out of it, I think.
Well, and the good news is, as far as we know, Chris Paul still has 2 healthy shoulders. I mean,
right. that helps.
Yeah. I do think of this recent slide, though. The Celtics loss, that 1-point loss, was probably their best game over these last few games, even more so than the Pistons and Cavs wins. I think that the Thunder showed up that game and played well that game. That's just a top tier team in Boston. But yeah, these other games have been a little concerning, but like you said, All-Star break happens. That can kind of cure a lot of ills, or maybe it lingers. Now, the one thing that the Thunder can actually do to improve the roster, the one thing left, is the buyout market. Do you think that the Thunder will pick up anybody on the buyout market? And how would that work with, if Dort signs a full contract? How does it work with, meaning they'll be at a full roster? Will they have to waive someone? What's all that look like with the salary cap?
Yeah, and this is where, again, some of those variables come in when you start talking about this. So high level, they have 1 roster spot available. Okay, they have 14 players, 2 two-way contracts. Those two-way contracts don't count against the 15-man roster. So they have an open roster spot. You would think that is earmarked for Luguentz Dort at some point, and for everyone that is, jumping up and down, screaming, give him an NBA contract. Understand, Deonte Burton didn't get his until March 10th of last season. So, right. Little patience here. I'm confident that something will be done to get him onto an NBA contract. So,
right.
If that roster spot is reserved for Dort, now you're looking at, well, who can they get to bring in to, add some reinforcement or help out with Baisley's injury? Well, now you're going to have to release someone, and maybe it's the injured Andre Robertson, and I'm sure there's a whole segment we need to save for that. Maybe it's a lesser move like Deonte Burton, for example, but that's what it would take, basically. So, and then you have to look at who is actually out there that looks like a logical buyout candidate that OKC might pursue. And it feels like a thin market at that stretch 4 spot. Jeff Green is currently a free agent. So, that's a guy that's out there. I mentioned Anthony Tolliver as a guy that, maybe what if Sacramento bought him out and he signed elsewhere. But those feel like just kind of, patchwork moves. Really, I think maybe they're better off just sort of trying what they have in-house until Baisley recovers.
Interesting. That's interesting. How about the 2 and 3 spots? Do you think that they just continue to roll? You think they'll look more at the 4 spot with Baisley hurt than they would at the 2 and 3 spot and play guys like Nader and Diallo and Ferguson?
That would be my hunch. And the reason I say that, everything about this team has been about what's best for it moving forward. I mean, it's not been about how can we make a little micro move that can take us from a 5-game series to a 6-game series in the first round, right?
Yep.
And, just the memories of Derek Fisher I'm having right now coming in and taking minutes away from like a Jeremy Lamb,
Right.
You have to think about that. Sure. I'm not saying that, the Thunder have a steady, reliable, rock solid wing rotation, but they have a group of guys that need to play, that need that experience, that need that playoff experience, to be quite honest. And so I don't think that bringing in a Corey Brewer type, to come in just because they're a grizzled veteran is necessarily the best move in the long term for this team.
Good answer. Okay, we are going to have a whole segment to Andre Robertson because we have 2 questions from Twitter on that. But before
only 2?
I
Just
know,
2?
right? Yeah, well, but one of them, there's like 5 people that jumped on it, so it's kind of like 6 people were wondering. But last question from me. So Gallinari, sign and trade this summer. What are the chances, and how does that affect the cap going forward?
Yeah, the forecast with Gallinari, it might be favorable to OKC, and here's why. There's not many teams expected to have cap space this summer. I mean, like, for example, Memphis decided we'd rather have like Dion Waiters' contract and Gorgie Jang than have cap space this summer, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's not many teams that are going to have like loads of cap space. And those teams, I mean, we're talking Atlanta, New York, which who knows what the Knicks are going to do, right? They could decide to push all their very tiny chips to the center of the table and go get a Gallinari. But
I mean, we know that they love power forwards, so probably.
They sure do. Point being is that there are a few teams that could have cap space. The Thunder could lose him outright. And if they do, ISTBY. It sucks to be you. I mean, that's just the way it works. But, the Thunder may be able to say, hey, look, there's a number of teams out there that might be a better fit for you, that can reward you better financially. You just have to, if you just work with us, we'll get something done. And now, I don't think the Thunder will be in position to command like a king's ransom. Of course, right. I say that and watch Presti get 5 first-round picks for him. But, I think when you look at what the return was probably going to be for Gallinari at the trade deadline, it was most likely a couple of expiring contracts and maybe a first-round pick or removal of protection, they may be able to get something equivalent this coming summer just because I think the market may be in OKC's favor that if you want to go to somewhere good, you have to work with us to get there.
I mean, that's encouraging. I mean, if you can get anything of value, especially that, if you get a first-round pick or a young player in the summer for Gallinari, that's a big win. Okay, so moving now to Twitter questions. So let's get into Andre Robertson. Welcome to the Dort Side, which is a great Twitter name, by the way. He asked, can OKC make it to where Dre's contract won't be included into the salary cap to avoid the tax? I can't remember what it's called exactly, but I thought there was some exception. Then, of course, Stephen Dolan said, please, sir, can I have some more? And he was referring to the question that you'd already seen. He'd asked about Dre, and then 5 other people jumped into that conversation. Basically, the question is, everybody wants to know about Robertson and the exception, salary cap. What's up, John? Help us out.
Okay. So the first thing, I do think people are sometimes conflating a couple of different things. One, there is something called a disabled player exception. And that is something like, for example, the Lakers, when Boogie Cousins tore his ACL, They applied for a disabled player exception. It was granted, and it's a limited salary cap tool. So if the Thunder had done that with Andre Robertson and it got approved, they would have gotten a salary cap exception worth about, I don't know, $4.5 million that they could have acquired another player. They wouldn't have gained like an extra roster spot. It just would have been like another cap exception, but pretty limited in power. Basically they could only sign a player for 1 year, claim a player off waivers with 1 year left on his contract, trade for a player with 1 year left on his contract. So, it's pretty limited in its power. So that is a lot of people, when they hear this, they tend to think about that disabled player exception, salary cap exception, sign someone to replace him. That didn't happen. The Thunder didn't pursue that route, probably for a myriad of reasons. They didn't do that. Now, the other thing people are thinking about is, well, if Robertson can't play, can they take his salary off the books, basically? And the answer is yes. And the best way I can maybe explain this is use a real world example. Earlier this season, Orlando waived Timofey Mozgov. He had 1 year, $15 million left on his contract. They released him. They stretched out his money over a few years, but then they applied to have his salary removed because they said his career's over. And a league-appointed physician, the Players Association, they jointly agree on someone to evaluate and see, essentially, is his career over? Is the risk of playing to his detriment? Basically, I guess would be, there's a really fancy legal way to say it, but that's what it comes down to. If that is basically decided upon, then yes, the Thunder could waive Andre Robertson, apply to have his salary removed, and if so, then his salary for this season disappears off the books. They don't get a cap exception. They can't go out and sign a replacement, but his salary just evaporates, which takes them under the tax line. So that is a whole lot of words. I understand. But essentially, that's what I try to tell people, is that there is a path, I think, for the Thunder to duck under the luxury tax very comfortably, by basically saying Andre Robertson's career is over and applying to make that happen. And that would not preclude Robertson from trying to come back like next season and prove that would not. He would not have to hold a press conference and medically retire and have tears in his eyes. He could attempt to come back next season. There is nothing that would preclude him from, quote unquote, proving the doctors wrong.
That was a great answer. I can see now why you don't want to write that on Twitter, though.
And it varies because like Steven asked, for example, about Yusuf Nurkic. The problem there is that Nurkic has multiple years left on his contract. If Portland released him, they're potentially on the hook for several more years because the league could come back and say, no, the doctor says he's fine. Right.
Oh, right.
So the key to this is that the player has to be waived. And before a team does that, I think they have to feel fairly certain that they're going to get their desired result out of this whole deal. And there's a new wrinkle just to make this even more complicated. If the player says, my career is not over, they put in something called a fitness to play panel, where basically the player can petition to say, no, I'm still healthy to play, and have another independent, source come in and kind of render judgment on that. So that's why I say it's a very complicated process. But that was put in place, I think, because of the Chris Bosh saga with the Miami Heat, where Miami was like, sorry, we cannot clear you to play pro basketball with your blood clot disorder, and he kind of disputed that. And anyway, that was resolved. That's why I say it's pretty complicated. And in the end, I trust that this Thunder front office has a pretty good read on this. We just kind of have to wait and see how the chips fall.
Now, I'm not going to hold you to this. Nobody listening is going to hold you to this. But if you just a hunch, is your hunch that this would happen or won't happen?
My hunch is yes. And the reason being is that, again, he suffered this injury on his current contract 2 years ago, has had multiple setbacks. And, I don't know exactly where they would say it was that injury. Nope. It was that setback. I know it was that setback. I don't know what they would determine is basically career ending at this point. But I feel like they have a pretty good chance. And then the other reason why I feel pretty confident about that, Brandon, they were so close to the luxury tax line. Like they were just $800,000 over. If they deal Deontay Burton to whatever team for nothing, he disappears from the books. They're under the tax. And then I'll say too that I think everyone else is much more concerned about the tax than the Thunder front office and owners are. They were not going to make some sort of a short-sighted move just to get under the luxury tax, like, I don't know, Houston does every year. Sorry, that was a dig. But point being is that I think they're comfortable. If they wind up where they have to pay $2 to $3 million worth of luxury tax at the end of the year, so be it. I mean, and this year it's not a big deal.
Well, and I mean, this is gravy anyways. To me, this season is like found money, right? I mean, if they make the playoffs, which they're going to make the playoffs, I mean, that's millions and millions more revenue this season they probably weren't counting on. So that's bonus money. And it is literally like found money. And that's why, like, when some people are getting upset about the couple of recent losses or the slide, I'm like, listen, this season is far more successful than it was supposed to be anyways. It's kind of like finding a $50 bill and complaining that it's not a $100 bill. Just enjoy your $50 bill, man. This is great.
Go back to July and August and remember how you felt back then. Remember what you were planning for this coming season, and this is not that bad after all.
Right, exactly. And for the Thunder front office, like you said, I don't know, the free T-shirts that they give at playoff games, that probably costs, what the luxury tax will cost this season, right? I mean, a couple $1 million for them, they're not going to sweat that. Okay, so some more questions from Twitter, from G. Vieira Nascimento. I am sure I'm saying that wrong. He asked, what's John's take on ownership losing $23 million last season? Is it something to keep an eye on, or it's an indication that the whole repositioning, replenishing thing means they'll go cheap for a couple seasons?
Saying that they're going to go cheap, I don't think is the right description. I mean, this team is going to fall under the luxury tax line probably for the foreseeable future. And I don't know, maybe conditions may never line up again to where they feel comfortable going in and, on the luxury tax like they did. So in terms of last season, what he's referring to is that, Forbes did their annual franchise valuations, and they noted that Oklahoma City was the only team to lose money last year to the tune of $23 million. On one hand, not surprising. It is one of the smallest markets in the league. They cannot compete with the ticket revenue, with the TV revenue, the ad revenue of, the 20 some odd markets above them. That was sort of the plan dating back to the decision to trade James Harden was, okay, we're going to wait. We want to spend money when it comes time to re-sign Kevin Durant. That didn't happen. It turned into Paul George. Okay, they demand a commitment, and they made it. And they did. So the fact that they lost money to me is just another indication on the disparity. Small markets, it's tough. I mean, it's just tough. I mean, the Lakers print money, the Knicks print money. And again, it all comes down to those things that I mentioned earlier, those local TV deals, those corporate sponsorships, all of those things that bring money into the team. Small markets like Oklahoma City, Memphis, New Orleans, etc., Utah, they're going to have less of that available to compete for. So I think to me, it was just a stark remembering of how difficult it is for these smaller markets to pay what it takes usually to compete year in, year out with those other teams that have just got these, just these blank checks they can write year after year.
Right. And it almost seems no fair. The Thunder front office is run so well. I mean, the decision-making and, the fan attendance is great. The fan support is great. But at the end of the day, it's just hard to compete with those big markets. I mean, regardless of how, crappy the Knicks run their organization, it doesn't really matter because of the market size, right?
Yeah, exactly. They have got this built-in buffer where in all those years where the Lakers were just putrid, they were still making money. And, there's also another factor here called revenue sharing. Fans are probably a little familiar with this concept, especially in baseball, where, the higher revenue generating teams share some of that with the lower teams to keep them afloat. Oklahoma City, for a number of years, was paying into that revenue sharing pool. They were helping keep, I don't know who they were helping keep afloat, But again,
I'm going to guess Sacramento.
it is, again, it may be, but there may be a fairly sizable market above them that, just wasn't meeting whatever benchmarks, and Oklahoma City was exceeding those. So point being is that this has been a very successful franchise, not only in terms of win-loss record. If you want to talk about their postseason success or lack thereof, fine, have that conversation. But they've also been a very big financial success for the league as well. So I don't want to hear any more of this Seattle crap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is. It is frustrating to see that, on Twitter and social media, people worried that the Oklahoma City is going to lose the team. Seattle's going to take it back. I mean, it's not going to happen. I mean, this has been such a successful franchise, like you said, on and off the court, from the success in winning and making playoffs and going to Western Conference finals, and then fans showing up and TV ratings, all the things. Yeah, it's a small market, but the success has been, hand over fist. They had one season where they lose money, but they were so far into the salary cap, luxury tax, and then, obviously they didn't go as far in the playoffs where they would have got more of that revenue back as probably expected. So it's going to be all good going forward. Amber asks, do you think Gallo is happy in OKC?
Yeah. Let me put it like this. I've never gotten an indication that he's unhappy. Kind of the funny thing is on media day, or funny thing to me anyway. So my radio partner, Jerry Ramsey, and I we're set up and we're interviewing some of the players they bring by. And we asked, Gallinari about being in Oklahoma City. And his response was, well, it's not New York and it's not LA. And we're like, we know. We are very aware of that. But he talked also about how, Denver, obviously where he spent a large amount of his time, was, one of his favorite places. In other words, kept getting this vibe like, we know we're Oklahoma City. We kind of know where we stand. But I do think Gallinari, I think he enjoys this team. I think he enjoys this group of players and these teammates. And that may be true whether this team was in Oklahoma City or New York or Bismarck or, wherever. So I don't get the indication that he's unhappy, but, also too, let's be real. He's coming up in the last year of his contract, and he's in a position to set himself up for the next several years, and highly doubtful that's going to be in Oklahoma City. So,
right. I agree with all of that. Okay. Last couple of questions. I'll get to this one because you've pretty much already answered it, but we'll just make it real clear what you mean. Aaron Newberry asked, will Robertson ever suit up for the Thunder again?
Man, I hope so. I mean, I really do. And some of this is I'm a sucker for a good story, especially a good comeback story. And B, I mentioned when you get a chance to talk to some of these guys, Andre is one of the most positive, upbeat, just realist guys you ever talk to, right? You want to see this guy make it back. You want him to walk onto Chesapeake Energy Arena and get showered, by massive applause from the crowd. But man, it's been 2 years, and it really breaks my heart a little bit if he's not able to make it back. I know it's real easy sometimes for some people to use injuries as a punchline. I hate to see that happen. He's tried really hard to make it back, but I just keep coming back to it's been 2 years, and the precedent of that happening is there's not much of one.
Yep. Completely agreed. Last question from Thunder Egg. Do you think the 96 Bulls could beat this Oklahoma City Thunder team?
I'm going to take a page out of Brandon Rebar's book and say it would be a close competitive game.
There you go. That is absolutely the answer I would give.
Yeah, there is no doubt that a far superior talented team like the 96 Chicago Bulls would go into clutch time against this Thunder team, and it would come down to a final shot. I have no doubt in my mind that is how crazy competitive this Thunder team has been this year.
John, I could just give you my Twitter login information and you could just tweet for me. You're saying the exact same things I would say. That's exactly right. And now, the last segment of the show. I'm excited about this. We are now joined by our producer, Rachel Jameson.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
John, do you know how much smack that Brandon talks about you on this podcast when you're not listening?
I have no doubt, and it's all well-deserved.
I try to get at least one little John jab.
It's become a weekly tradition.
Yeah, it's like a running bit on the show. But now the chips are on the table. It's going to be usually when we do this lightning round hot seat thing. I'm usually asking the questions, and it's usually two guests going head to head. But I thought it'd be fun for John and I to go head to head. So my partner in crime, Olivia Punchall, wrote questions for John and I to answer, and Rachel, as my witness, have I seen these?
You have not. Olivia sent them straight to me.
Yep. So these are all a surprise to me. So,
Okay.
John versus me. Let's do this, Rachel. You're taking over the show now. You're in charge.
So, in observance of Valentine's Day and All-Star Weekend, the theme of today's lightning round is love and basketball.
Nice.
You guys ready?
Oh, okay. All right. One thing I know a little bit about. The other one we'll see.
I'm not sure which is which, though. Okay, we'll start with John.
Okay.
What is 10-time NBA All-Star Chris Paul's wife's first name?
Ooh.
Oh.
She gave you options, so I will give you options. I know it's
cheap.
a little bit cheap, but I'm going to give them to you.
I bet you Nina is one of the options.
Jasmine, Janet, Jada, or Janelle?
I'm going to say Jada.
We have a winner. Ding, ding.
Dang.
Woo.
All right, John's
Man.
up one. Okay, Brandon. Which former Disney Channel star was spotted courtside cheering on her boyfriend at a LA Lakers game? You also have multiple choice.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
Vanessa Hudgens, Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, or Hilary Duff?
See, before you gave me the choices, I was thinking Selena Gomez because she was kind of the only Disney girl that I know of. But who was the third person you said?
Demi Lovato.
Yeah, I feel like it's her. I feel like she goes to basketball games, and I feel like she's got a boyfriend. So I'm going with her.
I feel like you're wrong.
Oh, was it Selena? Don't tell me it was Selena.
It was not Selena either. You're double wrong. You want to keep guessing and see how many more you can
Vanessa
get wrong?
Hudgens.
Okay, you got it right that time.
Third time's the charm. Dang it.
All right, John. Which former Thunder player wore jersey number 14? And this can be whoever you can come up with.
DJ Augustine.
That is one of them. Daquan Cook, guys. How'd you
that's
forget all
right.
day?
Was Daquan 14?
According to Olivia, he sure was. So was
That's right.
Sean Livingston and Reggie
Oh, yeah.
Williams.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
Sean Livingston. Man, I loved All Day as well.
What matters is that John got the point.
Yeah.
And you didn't, Brandon.
Dang it. I'm down 2-0.
Okay, Brandon. In the year 1998, which romantic drama won Best Picture at the 71st Academy Awards?
Oh,
And I'm not
Shakespeare in Love. It beat out Saving Private Ryan, which is one of the all-time Oscar crimes.
Are you sure about that?
Oh, I'm 100%. You don't even have to look it up.
Oh, there might be some drama here then.
Wait, no, are you serious?
Olivia actually highlighted Shakespeare in Love on the page as being the correct answer and then texted me later on and said that she highlighted wrong and the actual winner is Titanic.
Wait. Oh, okay. See, Titanic came out in 1997, so it was the 98 Oscars. But the year that they were honoring was 97.
Okay, well, here's the deal. We're going with my rules, which are kind of like your rules, and you're wrong. Because that's what Olivia would want.
Okay, that's fair. I can't argue with that.
All right, 1998 was also a big year for Thunder players. 4 current Thunder players were born that year. Name those 4 players, John.
Okay, 1998. Let me do the math here real quick. I'm going to say one was Lou Dort.
Do you want me to give you updates?
That would be helpful.
You are wrong.
Okay. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
That is one of them.
Okay. I know Baisley was not. Isaiah Roby.
Correct.
Okay. 2 more?
2 more.
2 more. Okay. I'm scanning. I'm thinking. Kevin Hervey.
Who? No.
No. Okay. No.
She said who?
Too much of a deep cut. Okay.
Yeah, too much. Rachel's not a big G League 2A fan.
I've had more than 4 guesses, so clearly I'm blanking. Probably
Yeah.
on the obvious last 2.
Terrence Ferguson and Hamidou Diallo. All right. Ben Simmons is making his second All-Star appearance this weekend. He's also the latest of a number of NBA players to be romantically involved with a member of the Kardashian-Jenner family.
Why am I getting all these
Brandon,
Like
I gotta be
Hollywood
honest,
couple
Brandon and John
questions.
both. I gotta warn you. There's a lot of Kardashian questions coming up because Olivia wrote these.
No, I know Kim and Khloe are Kardashians, and that's where my knowledge ends.
Well, this isn't gonna go well.
Okay,
for you,
all right, hit me.
The question: name the Kardashian-Jenner siblings in order from oldest to youngest.
Oh my
You've
God.
gotta be kidding me.
I'm so sorry, Brandon. I'm so sorry.
I'm so
Thank you, John.
happy Olivia wrote these questions.
Did
This
she
is
specify
amazing.
that these were for me and the basketball ones
She
were for
did
John?
not. This is luck of the draw. I let the guest go
he's-
first.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to say Kim,
Nope.
Chloe.
No.
That's all I know. I know that Chris Humphries dated one of them like 12 years ago. And then an Odom, Lamar Odom dated one. What am I answering? I don't know.
I think at this point you're just giving us all the facts. The Kardashians.
Their dad was one of OJ's lawyers. Give me something
No,
here.
You're wrong. Okay.
Okay.
I'd tell you the answer, but I don't think anyone cares.
Okay.
Kim Kardashian was briefly married to which former NBA player, John?
That would be Chris Humphries.
That is correct.
Oh my gosh, I just gave him an answer.
You should have stopped talking a long time ago. This is on you.
I'm terrible at my own game.
Which current or former Thunder player played college basketball for Denzel Valentine's rival university?
Oh, Valentine. She's going with the whole love and basketball
That is
Valentine's
correct.
thing. That is so random. His rivals. Sheesh. I'm going to say, because it's her asking, I'm going to say it was. No, Darius Baisley didn't play in college. I'm going to say Andre Robertson. He played at Colorado.
Incorrect. That is Mitch McGary.
I was going to say, can I please answer? Can I
Oh, you
can I
knew
answer
the
this
answer
one?
to it?
Oh, you knew it? Oh, so he must have played. Denzel Washington play at Ohio State then?
Michigan State.
Or Michigan State. Michigan State. Okay.
Oh, I should have let John
Yeah.
have it for
Yeah,
a bonus
should've.
point.
Yeah.
That's what Olivia would have wanted. Valentine is a great last name to have this time of year, and so is Love. How many All-Star appearances has Kevin Love made? Either starter or reserve. This is for you, John.
Okay. I'm going to say 7.
That's a good guess. That's
That is
right about.
incorrect.
I'm going to guess then. He's been injured so often. I'm going to say it was 6.
Incorrect as well. You both went over 5 times.
I was doing the Price is Right thing where I just go
Yeah.
bid one under him.
Okay, Brandon, there's big time. You have a chance to not get shut out. The Thunder currently hold the longest active streak for All-Star Game appearances. Which NBA team previously held the streak for consecutive All-Star appearances until this season?
It was the Spurs.
That is correct, Brandon.
Thank God. Yes.
Avoiding the shutout there at the end. She says, fun fact, prior to this year, there had only been 2 seasons in Spurs franchise history where a Spurs player did not appear.
Wow, that is crazy.
That's some longevity right there.
Yeah.
It is.
That's
It is.
nuts.
They've been a very blessed organization.
Man, that is nuts. Well, congratulations to John. I don't know what the final count was, but it was a whole
It was
lot.
3-1.
3-1. I'm 3-2. I will. I got
Nope.
words for Olivia after this. I'm going to send her some Oscar facts.
I'll just say, historically, be careful if you lead 3-1 because you could very well not lead when all said and done.
That's right. That means the next 3 times you come on the show, John, I'm going to shut you out.
You're gonna get dominated. Nice.
That's right. John, I know you got to get back to your bathroom, and I will just let the listeners try to figure out what that means. I'll just leave that as a mystery, but John's got to get to his bathroom. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us, John.
All right. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Thank you for listening and for supporting Daily Thunder. If you leave us a review in Apple Podcasts, you might hear it on the show. You can follow our guest John Hamm at John M. Hamm. That's 2 M's, and no, it's not the Mad Men actor. And you can follow me at Brandon Rabar as I cover the Thunder beat. If you become a patron of the show, you'll receive early access to Daily Thunder content, including bonus podcast segments, along with the weekend edition, a rundown of the best stories, news, tweets, and shenanigans from the Thunder universe, complete with a letter from the editor written exclusively for our patrons. You can join today at patreon.com/dailythunder. This podcast is produced by Rachel Jameson. You can follow her, I don't, but you can, at Rach Jameson. That's not true. I do follow her, and I regret it every day of my life. Send your questions and feedback to dailythunder@gmail.com and stay on dailythunder.com every day to catch the latest Thunder news, recaps, analysis, interviews, and all kinds of nonsense. We'll see you next week.
Bye.